Well, good man stuff Monday to you. I wanted to come and share really quickly the subject of our professional culture and where it may be detrimental to your life as a man. Coming up on Man Stuff Monday. You know, today you and I live in such a professional culture that generally speaking, as men, we live as a general contractor. Like we subcontract this or that. And we subcontract a lot of things that our fathers and our grandfathers' generation never would have subcontracted to a professional. For instance, they would have changed their own oil. They would have painted their own wall. You know, and I believe that there's nothing wrong with us subcontracting certain things out and hiring professionals, particularly if it's something you're not proficient at, or if it is something that your time is better spent elsewhere. There's nothing wrong with delegating something to someone else. But there are certain things in your life that you can't afford to subcontract to others. You know, once again, yeah, if you don't know how to change oil, have somebody at Jiffy Lube or somewhere do it for you. If your painting of walls turns into big drippy looking running walls, hire a professional. But there are certain things that only you should do. You can't subcontract out your children. You can't subcontract out your wife. You can't subcontract out the calling in your life. I tell you, there are certain things that God has called you to do that are just for you. And men, I want to tell you, if you don't love your wife, somebody will. And that's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough thing to hear. But God has entrusted her to you. And single men, you're listening in and you're like, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not married yet. I don't have kids yet. Pay attention. Because, you know, in this professional culture where we subcontract everything out, we abdicate so much of our responsibility to others. We're like, all right, well, I'm gonna abdicate my children, the raising of my children to the public school system, or the discipleship of my children to the youth pastor. But can I tell you, as a man, God has given you those children as a gift, given you that wife as a gift, and has given you certain responsibilities to honor and cherish and develop them. You know, one of the interesting cultural changes that we've experienced here in America as it relates to a husband and father's role was the Industrial Revolution. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, there was no such thing as a commute to work. You know, when we created factories and we had centralized work locations in suburbs versus the urban, prior to that, you weren't getting in your car and commuting to work. Some people commute 20 minutes, some people commute 2 hours to work. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, you went to your side yard. You were a blacksmith. You walked out of your house, you walked across the front yard, and there was your smithery right next to where you lived. Or maybe you ran a farm and your job was all around you. You operated a general store and you lived in the apartment upstairs and you just walked downstairs, flipped the open sign and began selling the things there in your mercantile. And prior to that transition of where you worked where you lived and you lived where you worked, that time period, fathers and husbands were much more accessible to their family. And what's interesting is the primary educator, and when I say education, I mean both scholastically and theologically, was the father. The father took a role in saying, all right, son, daughter, this is how you do math. Here's some history. Here's some grammar. And the father, it was one of their main roles to teach the education. And then they also were in charge of the religious upbringing. They were the ones who were teaching them the Bible and mentoring them in spirituality. But when the transition happened to where we were now commuting to work, and so not only did dad work a 40-hour week, But within that 40-hour week, he was also doing anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of commute back and forth. And by the time Dad was getting home from commuting to work, working an 8-hour, 9-hour day, and then commuting home, he got home just in time for dinner, to eat the dinner, to get a food coma and chill out on the couch and have Mom put the kids off to bed. And all the while, a dad never got to speak into the life of their son and daughter. And now, fast forward a few years, the school system, we have subcontracted that to the state. We've given our children to the state. And I want to tell you, fathers, I want to tell you, future fathers, you can't trust the state with the livelihood of your children. I'm not saying don't go to public school. Yes, I advocate homeschooling. Our kids are homeschooled, but I know that's not an option for everybody. I am saying, even if you are sending your kids off to school every day, father, be involved in their life. Be there to help them with their homework. That's not just mom's job. That is your job too. Can I tell you, particularly if you have a son and he's looking into your life and he's seeing you have a level of disinterest in education, a level of disinterest in theology, a level of disinterest in him as a young man, that's going to affect him. He's going to begin to think certain ways about it. We can't afford to subcontract everything. There are certain things that are placed within your realm of responsibility that you don't delegate. They're your responsibility. So today I want to encourage you, men, take responsibility. Take responsibility for your marriage. Take responsibility for your children. Take responsibility for your calling, the things that you have been wired, equipped, and given passion for. Hey, if you don't know how to change oil, get a professional. You don't know how to paint the wall, get a painter in there. Plumbing, hire a plumber. Don't let your basement flood. But you can't hire somebody else to take care of your wife. You can't hire somebody else to take care of your children the way that you can. There are things that only you can speak into your son and daughter's life. I will encourage you, don't subcontract them. God bless you. Go take him out.